everybody, and a good Friday afternoon to you. I hope your weekend is off to a good start. Welcome to More Sports and Less Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. I'm Dave Bacon, joined by Cleveland.com Browns beat reporter Dan Labbe. That'll give you a clue. We're going to talk some Browns football OTAs, the first session in the books, getting ready for the second one next week. Dan, some interesting news nationally as Jason Lockenfor, a guy who has not liked the Browns a lot, is picking them to win the AFC North, and he says he's riding with them in 2019.
Yeah, how about that? That momentum building up as we're seeing some national people who have been hard on the Browns in the past starting to come around. They're looking at this division and they're saying, you know what, this team is pretty good. They have a chance to beat a down Pittsburgh team. Maybe Baltimore is still trying to figure things out. That momentum is starting to build for this team nationwide.
Well, and the other thing is the roster upgrade has been remarkable by John Dorsey. And along with that, this Odell-Beckham Jr., is he here, isn't he here? Do you really think it matters at the end of the day?
You know, for me, it would be great if he could be here. I think it would be set a good example. You know, he's one of the leaders on this team, or is supposed to be one of the leaders. It would be good for him to be here. But it's not going to matter if he goes out there against Tennessee and catches 8 balls for 113 yards. Nobody's going to say, well, if he would have been at OTAs, he would have caught 10 passes for 120 yards. Odell Beckham is going to show up and do what he does. He's probably missing out on some things, but you're really going to build this team in training camp and leading up to the season.
Yeah, and the other thing is none of the guys in the locker room, to them, I don't think it matters one bit. I think that's just the age that it is with professional sports. It's voluntary. That means if you don't want to be here, you don't have to be here.
Yeah, exactly. And that's Freddie-Kitchens has said as much multiple times. He can't compel anyone to be here. And the reality is, if you're one of those young receivers, it's probably a good thing for you because now Damion-Ratley, Derek Willis, these guys get more reps now that maybe would have gone to Odell Beckham. They get some first-team reps. We saw what that did for Rashard Higgins last year to play with baker-mayfield. It got him on the team, and he had a great year. So it's an opportunity for some of these young guys.
And the other side is there's still plenty of time before they ever play a meaningful down of football for that chemistry to develop between Odell Beckham Jr. and Baker-Mayfield without question.
Yeah, and they'll be in L.A., during the summer in July when they'll work out and they'll get together and do some things. So that chemistry is going to build.
Now, another thing, it's our first look at Kareem-Hunt on the field, and you were out there. What did you see? What did you think from Kareem-Hunt?
I mean, he lived up to the hype. I've been saying he's actually probably, as much as I love Nick Chubb, Kareem-Hunt is probably the best running back on this roster. And when he gets back on the field with Chubb, he's going to do things that we haven't really seen a Browns running back do. He's that good. The yardage he put up in his 2 years in Kansas City, it's unbelievable. We're talking big numbers receiving-wise, big numbers rushing-wise. He's athletic. He's quick. He's a little bigger than you think. I remember watching him back in high school. I'm sure you do too. He's certainly put on some weight, some good weight. So this is a guy that can be a real game changer once he gets back on the field.
And you see, can catch the ball is another threat for Baker-Mayfield to throw the football to.
Yeah, and then, we're watching a play right now. He drops it at the end, but he's going to catch that ball most of the time, and that route is just something that the Browns don't have. Duke Johnson can do a little bit of that, but Kareem-Hunt is a true 3-down all-around back.
What about Baker-Mayfield? Again, it's hard to tell. You're in shorts, you're in helmets, but what did you see from Baker-Mayfield, and what do you like?
This time last year, Baker-Mayfield looked a little bit, I don't want to say lost, but he didn't look like he was ready to be the starting quarterback for this team. And then it kind of took off in training camp. And this year, he's the starter. It's under control. You can tell he's the leader, taking all those first-team reps. You see the accuracy. You see the timing. You just see what you expect from Baker-Mayfield in this setting. Your quarterback should look great. There shouldn't be balls on the ground. And that's what we're seeing with Baker-Mayfield.
What about Freddie-Kitchens? What has it been like to see him running the first kind of organized activities of his Cleveland Browns team?
Yeah, he sort of does a nice job of taking it all in because he's got Todd Monken, who does a lot of coaching of the offense. We see him and Ryan Lindley working with the quarterbacks a lot. And Freddie-Kitchens does a really nice job of just sort of overseeing everything. Now, he's involved in the offense. Obviously, that's his strength. He's going to call plays over there. But Freddie-Kitchens looks like a head coach. He looks like he's in charge of the full team.
And that's a good thing. Yeah. I mean, especially for a guy that has not been a head coach. It looks like he knows what he wants to be as a head coach. That's half the battle.
Yeah, exactly. He's willing to stay out of the way on the offense. He's willing to let Todd Monken and Ryan Lindley and these other offensive coaches do their jobs. He's not meddling. He's not getting in the way. When it's time to put on that headset and call the plays, he'll do it. But right now he's going to let those guys do their jobs.
Do you think the offense will look a little different with a new offensive coordinator? And Todd Monken was a guy that was interviewed for some head coaching jobs. He's not coming here if he doesn't have some input.
Yeah, exactly. And he brings that air raid system. And I'm curious to see, because Freddie-Kitchens, he's a new school offensive coordinator, but he also loves to run the football. We saw that last year. And the air raid, it kind of favors passing the football. So I wonder if, we'll see a little bit of that influence in the way Freddie-Kitchens calls plays. But I think the offense is going to be a lot of fun to watch because they're going to attack down the field. They're going to spread guys out. When they do run the ball, it's going to be maybe without a tight end on the field. So it's going to be more open in that area too. It should be a fun offense to watch.
The other thing is Duke Johnson. What do you make of that? And is that anywhere near a resolution? Do you expect him to be on the team, I guess?
I think they're going to keep him around for as long as they can. If they get an offer they like, maybe a fifth round or fourth round or something like that, they might look at that. They might look to make that move, but I just don't think they're in any rush to trade Duke Johnson. I don't think the value they want for him matches up right now. And he doesn't have to be here till June 4th. We've talked about that with Odell-Beckham. That's when mandatory minicamp starts. He might still show up for an OTA session or two. There's still 2 weeks of this thing left. But if he's not here on June 4th, that's when you really start to have a problem with Duke, and that's when you really have to make a decision on what you want to do with him.
Dan Labbe, the Cleveland Browns beat reporter. We are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. More rookies at OTA. We're going to flip it and also talk about the defensive side of the ball. More sports. Les Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition, will be right back after this timeout.
When my dad started Nature Stone right here in Northeast Ohio, he created a solution for age-old concrete problems: unevenness, cracking, pitting, and more. Nature Stone solves all of these problems in garages, basements, and outdoor spaces. Nature Stone is beautiful, environmentally friendly, and always affordable. Plus, Nature Stone is backed by Russell's Promise, our true unconditional warranty.
Get Nature Stone installed in your home by the end of May and get up to half off. Schedule your free in-home estimate easily online today.
It's not just a floor. Wow, it's Nature Stone.
More sports and Les Levine. The Weekend Winners Edition continues. Dan Labbe, Cleveland.com's Browns beat reporter. Dan, OTAs finished up. We talked a little bit about the offensive side of the ball. What about the defensive side of the ball? What stood out to you?
I think they're going to use a lot of guys in that secondary. We saw a lot of guys from last year that were on the roster, kind of practice squad guys or bottom of the roster guys. Jermaine-Whitehead, Tavier Thomas. These are guys, I don't know how much time they're going to play, but I think they're going to have opportunities to get on the field. And then, of course, you have Terrence Mitchell, TJ Carey. We all like to talk about the corners that they've drafted, Denzel Ward and Greedy Williams, but there's still some good corners on this roster behind those guys, and I'm curious to see how they're going to use them. We saw a lot of bodies in that secondary on Wednesday.
Well, and Steve Wilkes is a guy who is he made his bones in the NFL as a secondary coach. Is there anything that you sense will be drastically different, or is it way too early to tell just about the defense under Wilkes?
I think it's a little too early to tell. I would watch to see how many linebackers they actually play on the field in their base packages. I think that's the one thing to keep an eye on. Obviously, he comes from Carolina and Arizona, and in Carolina he had a lot of good linebackers. Here they have some young linebackers. I know we're going to get to them, but I'm curious to see how many linebackers they play on the field at a time. Are they going to be in their 4-3 base a lot, or are they going to be in situations where they have 5, 6, maybe even 7 DBs on the field at a time?
Well, let's talk about some of the rookie linebackers. You mentioned them. Taki. You got Mac Wilson. What did they look like? What kind of stood out about those two, the guys that they drafted?
It's always so hard to tell because, especially with a guy like Taki, he's so physical. It's hard to tell when they're on pads on. But, we did see those guys playing up a little bit. It's still Joe Schobert, Christian Kirksey, Darius Taylor's a guy they signed that I think they really like from Tampa. But these guys are going to get opportunities. Taki's going to have a chance to move up the depth chart. Mac Wilson is going to have a chance to move up the depth chart. I think we're going to see a lot of these guys as it goes along, but it's really hard to get a read on things before they put those shells on and start hitting.
Right. I mean, right now it's touch football, so
exactly.
It looked like both of them could run and cover pretty well. They did not look. They looked almost like a safety type covering guys.
Yeah, and even that play we showed earlier with Kareem-Hunt, it was Taki that kind of got beat, but by the end of that play, he was back in it and had an opportunity to make a play on Hunt and a play on the football. And that's really what they need. And they want Mack Wilson to do that. In Alabama, he was pretty good in coverage. We saw that over the middle of the field. Taki, a little bit of a different sort of linebacker, but athletic enough and quick enough that he can cover out of the backfield. And that could be a game changer if they have some competition at that position. And maybe he pressures a guy like Christian Kirksey or Joe Schobert. It'll be interesting to watch there.
Well, the other thing is Mack Wilson played for Nick Saban at Alabama.
Yeah.
He can play on the defensive side of the ball in the NFL. He might not have the elite physical skills, but he's going to do what you need him to do. Let's talk a little bit about Greedy Williams, a guy that the Browns I don't think thought was going to be there in the second round. Anything jump out about Greedy?
This on Wednesday we didn't see a whole lot necessarily, but during rookie camp I thought he got better as the weekend went along, and I think it's going to take a little bit of time with him. With Denzel Ward, he kind of hit the ground running last year. Was defending Josh Gordon. Greedy Williams will pick it up. There's not a lot of pressure on him right now to necessarily step in and be a starter. So we'll kind of see what happens there. I think they're still going to roll with Terrence Mitchell and TJ Carey maybe starting at the outside, at least right now. But by training camp, who knows? We could see number 26 out there on the other side of Ward pretty quickly.
The one thing that you like to hear is his work ethic. They kept raving. And if that's not the case, they're not going to say that. That's if a coach is saying that, they mean it.
Yeah, they could just say nothing if it wasn't the case.
Correct.
And they're raving about the way he works. And it's a big transition to go from playing at LSU, which is a very good conference, very good school. This is the NFL now, though. And obviously you went against NFL-style talent there, but now it's every single guy is an NFL-level talent. This is maybe where you'd like to have Odell Beckham there, because it's kind of one of those iron sharpen iron situation. But again, we'll get there once Beckham does show up.
What jumped out? I know, again, it's really hard to say. Is there anything that overwhelmingly kind of hit you with the first organized team activities under Freddie-Kitchens?
Well, it was organized. That's one thing. You always kind of look at that. We've seen it before in the past when it hasn't always been. Maybe the pace is slow or something like that. The pace was what you want to see. But again, I just think the offensive firepower is going to be really overwhelming once they get the full squad out there. When we were out there, Jarvis Landry wasn't practicing, but we still saw, Kareem-Hunt and Nick Chubb. We saw guys down the depth chart like Damion-Ratley and Derek Willis make some plays, and you like to see that because that's going to create competition. So I think this offense, once it's 100% in its whole, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Dan Labbe, the beat reporter for the Cleveland Browns for cleveland.com. We appreciate the time as always. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. When we return, Jake Burns will join us and break down some more of the Browns from OTAs. He has a few surprises he wants to talk about. You're watching More Sports and Less Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. Stay with us.
It takes attention to detail. With your local Bryant dealer, you're getting more than just a technician. You're getting someone who pays attention to your needs and the little things that make a big difference. It takes a dealer you can rely on. And to keep your family cool this summer,
let me show you how this works.
it takes Bryant.
Bryant, whatever it takes.
And to keep your family comfortable, it takes Smiley One Heating and Cooling. Find them at 440-449-HEAT.
Man, I don't even look at it as no leadership role. I just look at it as, man, the young guy want to come ask questions, man, I got answers for you, and that's basically what it is, man. You want to get them young cats, you want to see some of the young cats get better, man. I know when I was in that position, it's all I wanted. So, it's now if I could just do that for the young guys, Sheldon doing the same thing, it's going to get everybody better.
And that has to be music to the ears of Browns coaches and fans as Olivier-Vernon, who came over from the Giants, ready to be a leader, even if he doesn't want to call himself that. Let's welcome in Jake Burns from the Orange and Brown Report. Jake, what about Vernon? What do you see with him? What do you like about him? And is he set up to really make an impact here?
Well, yeah. I mean, I certainly think he's ready to make an impact and be a big part of what the Browns do. And I think a good question was asked during that press conference is how do you feel about the Browns putting stock into you as somebody? The Browns could have logically went out and got almost any defensive end on the market this year, and they decided to go after him. And that spoke a lot to him. That meant a lot to him that the Browns have faith in him to work opposite Myles Garrett. And I'm a big fan of his demeanor. Seems very even-keeled. Seems like the type of veteran that'll help the young guys understand never to get too high, too low. And I think it'll be a really good fit for the Browns on this defensive line. And I left impressed with how he works at practice, left impressed with how he works opposite of Miles, whether on the left side or the right side. He can do a little bit of both. He'll get up in a 2-point stance and be able to handle that responsibility too. So Browns fans should be excited. It's not a name that I think a ton of people knew, but Olivier brings a really good skill set here to Cleveland to work opposite of Miles, and should have a really good year as the Robin to Miles' Batman role.
Now let's talk about some guys that impressed that were kind of maybe a little under the radar. I know a guy that you said you thought looked really good was Jerome-Whitehead. Tell me a little bit about him, what you liked about him, what type of player he can be.
Yeah, so Jermaine's been around the NFL a little bit, and he did join the Browns. He did not play a ton last year for the Browns as far as a regular defensive player, but he does have connections to this front office and the group before him, and he's played in Green Bay, as you can see, and he's done some things for them when he's been asked to be there. But sometimes guys take a leap. Like it could be a guy that they've really fallen in love with his practice habits last year, fallen in love with his offseason work ethic, and I want to give him a real shot at winning a role here. He was playing out in front of the likes of Eric Murray, who they traded for from Kansas City, playing out in front of the likes of some of the rookies they just drafted. They had him as their nickel corner, playing in the slot with the first team, and then when they would bring in Terrence Mitchell and bump TJ Carey inside, they bumped him back to play some safety too. So he was on the field a lot. Doesn't necessarily mean he's going to win a job, but it does mean that they're giving him an ample opportunity to get out there and prove himself. And we'll pay attention to that next Wednesday at the next media OTA availability.
Is he a guy that kind of you thought might get that opportunity, and with what you've seen, does he have the skill set that they would need in that role?
I to be honest, I was blindsided. I did not expect to see him playing. I mean, and that's a good thing, though, because they may see something that we don't necessarily always see, as we're not privy to practice tape and privy to all of those things that they have as a coaching staff, obviously. So it's tough for me to say whether he has the skill set to do it. He hasn't really played a ton on film. I need to probably go back and watch as much of it as I possibly can. But, yeah, they seem to have faith in him, so I'm going to try to watch as much of his practice as I can. He seemed to be playing fairly well when they were running out there on Wednesday last week. So it's something to monitor. I hate that I don't have a great answer, but they at least have some faith in him to play that role. Otherwise, he wouldn't be getting that opportunity he's getting.
Another player getting the opportunity to do some good things, predominantly because Odell-Beckham Jr. is not around, is Damion-Ratley, guy they drafted last year. What did you see from him? What do you like from him?
Just a good day. I think he came out of Texas A&M as more of a flat speed guy. He did not handle the nuances of route running all too well, cuts coming in and out of those breaks, how to set up his routes. But I was impressed Wednesday. He was Baker Mayfield's leading target opposite Antonio Callaway, so he's a Z. He would probably be your backup Z or give a chance to run that role. So Z is your flanker. He's going to be sort of an off-the-ball, to-the-formation strength type of player. So he would back up what would probably be Higgins or Callaway playing that role as they all sort of bump in and out. Callaway is more of an X, which is your split end on the backside on the ball. So just a good day. Caught the football really well, ran and created a really good amount of separation. And as Jarvis Landry, Odell weren't there practicing, and Rashard Higgins was on the side with a calf injury, seemingly he took the advantage of his opportunity. And I left feeling pretty good about his chance to be the 5th or 6th wide receiver on the roster.
Another guy that is kind of intriguing, new defensive system, Genard-Avery. What do you see from him? Where do you think he might fit?
Yeah, so you can only get so much from these practices because they're not wearing full pads, and obviously, they could always be just flirting with guys at different positions, but they did not send Genard-Avery down with the linebackers. They sent him down with the edge defenders. They could rotate that where he goes all the time for individual training periods. They call those indie periods, where you're going down with your position and working on position-specific drills. So he went with the edge guys. Does that mean he's going to be a full-time edge player? No, not necessarily. He could still play linebacker some like he did last year too, but he's going to be bouncing in and out of those two roles. He was not with the second-team edge players. He came in as a third edge, but we know who he is. As a rookie, he showed he's a known quantity as a guy who can bend off the edge and get after the quarterback. His tape does not lie, as they say. So he will be bouncing around, being a Swiss Army knife for this defense between playing the edge, getting after the quarterback on pass downs, but also being able to bump back and play Sam linebacker on occasion too. So I would expect maybe if we go next Wednesday and he's with the linebackers, I would not be surprised. He'll jump back and forth to work on his craft at both positions.
What are some of the things that you kind of look forward to with the next OTA? And as you mentioned, it's middle of next week. There'll be another one that's open to the media. What are you looking forward to taking a look at there?
I just want to see how these guys are as athletes. How do they handle one-on-one competitions between the running backs and linebackers and safeties? And then how do the wide receiver corners handle those things? How are quarterbacks throwing the ball? How are the leadership roles being taken? I think it became abundantly obvious to me that Mayfield is the absolute voice on offense. When a skirmish broke out between a couple of players, a DB and a wide receiver, he's the guy voicing reason for the offense. I just look for little things. You can only see so much. How skill work looks, what a guy looks like compared to what he looked like last year physically. Like Nick Chubb just looks like a bigger, stronger version of what he was last year, which is pretty scary to think about. But he's just getting healthier and healthier as his career moves on from Georgia. But what do Miles look like? What do those guys look like? And what roles are they playing? The biggest thing you can take out of these OTAs is where are they aligning guys? Where are they giving guys chances to play and sort of get a preconceived notion of where they have those guys pegged as far as first or second team, and based as you go into mini camp there in early June. And then once you get to the real deal in August, late July, early August, that's where you can get a feel for who these players are and how the Browns sort of envision them playing for them. If like a big takeaway from yesterday was Sione Takitaki, their number 80 pick, is playing Mike linebacker with the second team. So that might be a vision they have for him. He can play Will, but they might want to groom him to be a Mike as well. So just little anecdotes like that are what you can take away. Their vision for players and what those players look like in just skill-based competition.
Anything that you can gather when it's just the shells, or is it basically just kind of, do guys know where they're supposed to be? Is that basically the whole thing with it?
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to get anything from the run game because they're not going to run the football in a team setting because you just simply can't, because you're not wearing shoulder pads or anything in the lower body either. You're just wearing a helmet, so they're not going to risk injury on those things. So it's a ton of throwing. So it's really you're not going to win or lose a job this time of year. It is still voluntary. That's important to understand. Not everybody has to be there. So you're just trying to see where are they aligning guys and where do guys look comfortable as athletes? How are they going out making plays downfield? It's a really good time of year to judge what cornerback, safety, wide receiver, tight ends are looking like, how their route running looks, how their timing is with Baker-Mayfield. And then sort of a fun anecdote too is paying attention to who they have as the backup quarterback and how those guys are throwing the football too.
Jake Burns from the Orange and Brown Report. As always, we appreciate the insight. We'll check back in with you next week with OTAs. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out, and we shift gears a little bit. Chris Fedor will join us talking Cavs basketball and the upcoming draft.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's Kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget. Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
Welcome back to More Sports and Less Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. I'm Dave Bacon. We're going to shift gears here and start talking NBA basketball and Cavs basketball. The Cavs found out that they will have the 5th pick in the NBA draft. Not exactly what they hoped for with the second worst record in the league, but that draft lottery odds kind of threw a wrench into everything as 3 long shots got into the top 4 picks. But the Cavs also know that they will have a pretty good head coach with a college record. First time in the NBA, but John-Beilein will be the Cavs' new head coach. Let's welcome in Cleveland.com's Cavs beat reporter Chris Fedor. Chris, let's begin with Coach Beilein. First of all, your reaction to it and what you think of Beilein as a potential NBA head coach now.
Obviously, I was surprised that it was him, Dave, just because I think everybody involved did such a good job of keeping his name out of the coaching search. They kept it quiet, and obviously there are reasons why they did that. And when it comes to college coaches, it's really, really tricky because there's so many people involved when you're trying to go that direction. You have to be respectful of the university. You have to be respectful of the boosters. You have to be respectful of the kids that he recruited there to play at Michigan. So you just don't want this kind of situation to play out in the media the way that some of the other candidates did. In saying that, I think if you take a look at the things that the Cavs felt like were really, really important during this coaching search, the phrases that they used, culture driver, player development, and guy who can relate to young players and communicate with them in a way that they're going to want to follow. Like a lot of that, yeah, it pointed to assistant coaches, those up and coming assistants that work with a lot of these guys on a day-to-day basis, but it also pointed to the college level because that's what John-Beilein has done at Michigan. That's what he did at Canisius. That's what he did at West Virginia. He took guys that weren't McDonald's All-Americans, that were 2-3 stars, and he turned them into first-round picks. And he turned his programs into some of the better ones in the conference and getting them to the NCAA tournament. So player development is what he's all been about throughout the course of his college career. So from that standpoint, it shouldn't be that much of a surprise. It also shouldn't be that much of a surprise that the Cavs, this group, is willing to take a swing on a guy like this in John-Beilein because they are naturally risk takers.
Well, the other thing about him, the one negative you hear about with Beilein is his age. I don't think that is really a factor. I mean, if you look at the way his players responded to him at Michigan, at West Virginia, Canisius before that, it's a guy that can relate to young guys, and it doesn't matter how old you are. If you can relate to kids of this generation, you'll be able to do it, I think, at the professional level as well.
You know what, Dave? That was one of the first things that I brought up to somebody the day that the hire was actually announced. I talked to somebody inside the Cavs organization, and they said, Chris, I get that. I understand where you're coming from. But we didn't say we were looking for a young coach. That's something that the media took and kind of connected dots, and they ran with. We never said that there was a specific age that we were looking for. We never said that we were going to go a certain direction. We said from the very beginning we were looking for certain things, and those traits, I think, fit John-Beilein. And the other thing that they said to me, Dave, is he's not young or he's not old in the way that he conducts himself. He conducts himself like a young guy. As you mentioned, he has found a way to get through to these 18, 19, 20-year-olds in the way that he talks to them, and his energy, just the way that he is. There's so much video, Dave, of Michigan getting it further and further in the NCAA tournament, and then what's he doing? He's sneaking around the corner with a squirt gun, shooting his players, having a good time, celebrating with them. So that's something that appealed to the Cavs as well, is just that young energy that he brings to the table, even though he is 66 years old.
Let's talk a little bit about who might be available at number 5 for the Cavs. A guy that kind of jumps off the page immediately, Cam-Reddish, the third of the 3 Duke guys.
Yeah, and he came in with a lot of hype, and a lot of people felt like, Dave, this was going to be a draft that went 1, 2, 3, Duke, Duke, Duke. But it's probably not going to go that way, and that's because Cam just didn't live up to that reputation coming out of high school. This is a guy who's been in the spotlight, Dave, since he was like 14, 15 years old, playing for Team USA. So everybody is aware of what he can be, and they've been talking for years about what he can be. The problem is, Dave, he's never turned into that guy. So I think a lot of people are like, okay, he looks the part, but he doesn't play the part. So why? Is it because he was at Duke and overshadowed by Zion and RJ, and he willingly took a step back because those guys are such dominant personalities and both those guys are alphas and he's not an alpha? Or is it just his nature where he's the kind of guy who looks the part, but he disappoints? He's equal flash and flame. And that's something that the Cavs and other teams around the NBA, Dave, are going to have to figure out throughout this process, because he's 6'8". He has a silky smooth shooting stroke, but the production at Duke and the production even in the high school level, it just never matched his gifts.
On the opposite end of that, you have Jarrett-Culver, who kind of took off with Texas Tech during the NCAAs. What do you see with him?
Well, first of all, he's a great kid. Everybody that I've talked to inside the Cavs organization and just around the NBA, Dave, they talk about how great of a kid he is. You know, he's that first one in the gym, the last one to leave. Everybody at the Texas Tech program has great things to say about him. He came back for his sophomore year. He wasn't really on the lottery radar coming into this year, Dave. He was probably outside the lottery, maybe between 20 and 30. And he worked his way into the lottery. He worked his way probably into the top 5. He rebuilt his jumper. It was a lot better and more reliable this year than it was. He led Texas Tech in scoring, rebounds, assists. He's more polished, I think, as an offensive playmaker than somebody like Cam-Reddish. maybe even somebody like DeAndre Hunter from Virginia. There are questions, I think, about how high his ceiling can actually get. Is this about as good as he can become, or can he get even better at the NBA level when you're talking about having more space out there to operate than what he had at college and Texas Tech? And the other thing that I think the Cavs really like about him, Dave, he's a defender. They don't have enough good defenders. Texas Tech is known for defense.
Another guy that's kind of interesting, Darius-Garland from Vanderbilt, didn't play a lot because of injury, but flashed some skill when he did.
And that goes back to the pre-draft camps, and that goes back to his high school days. Dave, coming into this year, there was legitimate conversation about Garland being the #1 point guard in this year's class. He didn't get a chance to show that. John Morant kind of came out of nowhere. He burst onto the scene, and he took that spot. He's probably going to go #2 overall. But there are some in the NBA, Dave, that are starting to think that this is not just a 3-player draft, but maybe a 4-player draft because of Garland, even though he only played 5 games at Vandy before hurting his MCL. He's not participating in the combine. He's gone home. That leads people to think that maybe he's got a promise in the top 5 or at least in the top 10. But Dave, I think he's the best pure shooter in this year's class, and the Cavs went into this offseason looking to prioritize shooting, rim protection, and defense. And this kid shoots it as good as anybody in the class, and he shoots it the way that some of these elite guards in the NBA do. Off the dribble, NBA range, coming around pick and roll, feet set, feet not set. So I think this kid, by the end of this process, is going to be looked at a lot differently than where he's being looked at right now.
Chris Fedor, the Cavs beat reporter for cleveland.com. We appreciate the insight on both John-Beilein and who the Cavs might be looking at number 5 in the NBA draft. We'll continue to check in with Chris Fedor as that draft gets closer and closer. We got to take a step aside here and take a time out. When we return, it's your weekly dose of Maction. More sports and Les Levine Weekend Winners Edition. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Chad Miles, host of Kentucky Afield, the longest-running outdoor show in the nation. I've had the privilege of watching Kentucky's elk herd grow to the largest east of the Mississippi, attaining Boone and Crockett status, and I've shared in some amazing elk hunts along the way. This year, nearly 600 tags are available to the public, and you can take your pick of tags to put in for and possibly go on the hunt of a lifetime. Simply apply by April 30th for your chance to hunt elk right here in Kentucky.
Collegiately, all the spring sports are wrapping up in the Mid-American Conference. Toledo softball made some history, and the MAC baseball season wraps up its regular season this weekend. Heather Klatt has this week's MAC Tracks.
Hey everyone, this is Heather, and here's your MAC Track. Since we double booked ourselves last week, here's everything that you might have missed. The Toledo Rockets won the program's first ever Mid-American Conference softball championship title. UT is set to take on number 14 Kentucky today in the first round of the 2019 NCAA softball championships down in Lexington. Over on the track, Akron captured the men and women's track and field title. This is the 4th time the Zips have captured both titles in the outdoor season. A total of 89 student athletes will take place next week at the NCAA Regionals. We have 85 in the East down in Jacksonville and 4 participating in the West Regional out in Sacramento. Next week we'll be coming to you from Springer Stadium for the 2019 MAC Baseball Championships. As of now, 5 teams have already secured their trip to Avon, with 1 still up for grabs. Keep an eye on our social platforms Saturday evening for the final seedings. Games begin on Wednesday, May 22nd. For more information, check out the baseball championship page at getsomemaction.com. A few coaching changes coming out of Mount Pleasant. After 40 seasons, Margot Yonker is hanging up her cleats as Central Michigan head softball coach. Yonker finishes her career with a record of 1,268, 808, and 7, the 9th most wins in NCAA D1 history. Central Michigan also announced the promotion of Christine McDonald to the head coach of the women's gymnastics team. McDonald recently completed her 25th season as a member of the CMU coaching staff after being a student athlete for the Chips from 1988 to 91 and a student coach in 1992. Our tweet of the week comes from Spencer Adkins, a meteorologist in West Virginia who spotted some action on Flight Radar 24's letter of the day. Some serious action in the skies above Ipsy. It's like they knew or something. Next week, we will have updates from NCAA Regional Track and Field and NCAA Regional Golf. For anything else MAC sports related, be sure to follow us on all of our social platforms. We'll see you next week.
We're all out of time on this edition of More Sports and Less Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. Have a great weekend. Stick around. Bill Castrovince joins me for the High School Sports Insider coming up right now.
Keep it simple.
Leaders lead. Leaders lead.
Let's go! Stop whining!
Again, go again, yes! You gotta rotate, go, Stone!
The High School Sports Insider is brought to you by Cuyahoga Community College, where futures begin. By the Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. By Spectrum News One, always Ohio, always refreshing, always on, exclusively on Spectrum. By Dominion East Ohio, Dominion, it all starts here. And by Classic Teleproductions. It's late May, the school year is winding down, and the spring sports tournaments are gearing up. As always, a great time to hop on board this edition of the High School Sports Insider. Thanks for joining us. Along with Bill Castrovince, I'm Dave Bacon.
Over the next half hour, we'll meet a Warrior who could hear his name called in the Major League Baseball draft. Plus, we'll check in on the defending state champs in D1 softball, talk to a Knight who can get up and go, and discuss the state of the game with a member of the OHSAA.
We begin tonight on the mound with one of Ohio's best pitchers. Jackson High School's Yanni Skariotis was the winning pitcher as a sophomore in the state championship game. He was first team All-Ohio as a junior a season ago and has been virtually unhittable in this his senior season. In the classroom, Yanni is among the tops in his class and is a Division I baseball recruit. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program is proud to salute Yanni Skariotis, this week's Shining Star. As a sophomore, Yanni Skariotis pitched a complete game, picking up the win in the state championship game for Jackson High School. 2 years later, Skariotis just keeps getting better and better.
He has that ability to use both corners, and I think that allows him then to use his secondary pitches, which are, they're plus pitches. He's able to use multiple secondary pitches, and I think that's how you get, really good hitters and elite hitters out, is you're able to get them in certain counts and be able to throw your pitch instead of having to throw a hitter's pitch. So he's been able to do that, and he's learned from that.
I think it's actually, pitching inside to be able to go outside with the fastball and the curveball, or, pitching to my strength and the hitter's weakness is always a good thing. But it's basically, I can locate the ball in and out, and I want to keep doing that as much as I can because that's my strength, is controlling the fastball and using the fastball to complement my off-speed pitches.
In this, his senior season, Skariotis is unbeaten and didn't allow an earned run throughout the entire regular season. Skariotis entered this year's tournament a perfect 27-0 at Jackson.
Mindset is basically one pitch at a time because, I can't be worried about a strikeout 0-0 because, throw a fastball outside, ground ball, hit, home run, something. You can't be worried about the next two pitches. You can't be worried about the next pitch. You have to be worried about the pitch that's right in front of you because that's the only one you have at the moment.
We've seen the maturity, handling spots, handling adversity, I think, is the biggest thing. I think his last outing, he got into a jam a little bit, pitched his way out of it, used his defense. That's a little different. We're seeing those mature innings coming out of him, and those are exciting.
As hard as it may be to believe, Yanni is just as good in the classroom as he is on the mound. He carries a 4.9 GPA, scored a 33 on his ACT, and was named the Sam DeBlasey Commissioner's Male Scholar Athlete of the Year for the entire Federal League. Colleges obviously took notice. Skariotis will pitch for the Ohio State Buckeyes next season.
I'm extremely excited. You know, it's a perfect fit for me. I've always wanted to go there. The coaches are really, really good there. You know, what made me kind of choose there is that during our state championship run, they came to every single start, every single game that I had. From, you know, I was in relief the first tournament game, and, you know, starting in the last championship game, they were there every single inning. They stayed in contact with me, and, you know, they gave me as much time as I needed, let me go explore different schools and stuff like that. So, I mean, they're great people there.
If you know a student who deserves recognition like Yanni, we want to hear about them. Log on to OhioLottery.com, head to the About section, find Supporting Education, and nominate that student as an academic all-star. They could end up on the High School Sports Insider as our next shining star.
We stay in Division I for another ace. Nate Stahl wants to lead Walsh Jesuit to its 5th state title, and he could do it with his arm or his bat. Stahl is now one of the best players in high school, and he could be a pro in a matter of weeks. Here's Nate Stahl, our Cuyahoga Community College student athlete with a future. Cuyahoga Community College, where futures begin. You don't need a Walsh roster to find Nate Stahl on the field. All you have to do is listen for him.
I scream a lot. Anything, I get excited. We're very energetic, so we go crazy when we're out there. I like to have fun in the locker room. We just like to have a good time in there. So I'm a goofy guy.
And he's probably the best player on the field too. Major League scouts have been coming to his games, and the 6'4", 205-pound senior just might hear his name called in the MLB draft in June.
It remains to be seen whether the draft will be an opportunity for him here in a few weeks with the draft. But he's most of all just a special kid that I love from the bottom of my heart.
The only question about Nate, is he a better hitter or pitcher? Stahl has a baseball scholarship to Indiana, and the Hoosiers are going to let him do both next year. But he loves to rake.
I've learned more that it's not about hitting home runs, even though I still love to do that. It's more about just doing everything you can to bring in runs for the team. You know, just being a team player more than just being myself.
The pro scouts see Nate as a pitcher, and he can throw in the low 90s.
I've actually learned a lot from my teammates pitching, because I wasn't really much of a pitcher going into high school, but I learned a lot from guys like Yasser and guys like Riley. I like when my team gets behind me when I'm pitching, because everyone gets real excited, and my team hits well when I pitch.
And while he dominates on the diamond, Nate is kind and compassionate too. He has traveled with his father John on mission trips over the years, rebuilding churches in places like Mexico and the Bahamas. And the experience has given Stahl a different perspective on his high school life.
Being a kid going to a private school, you know, it costs a lot of money, and like being able to have this opportunity and like have this experience, it's kind of crazy, because you go down there and you see people who don't really have that much, and it's tough to see, but you realize how much you really have and how thankful you are.
Nate is patriotic too. He likes to wear red, white, and blue bandanas for his games, and well, he's the All-American kid.
We're just getting things rolling on this week's show. Straight ahead, some Panthers on the prowl, and a Knight who seems to always have the jump on the competition. The High School Sports Insider will be right back. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program has been recognizing role model students and teachers since 2007. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Supporting Education. There, you can nominate students in kindergarten through 12th grade as academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as the Teacher of the Month. Every school that participates is eligible for the School of the Year. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. Thanks for hanging with us on this edition of the High School Sports Insider. The Hoban Knights are enjoying a record-setting lacrosse season. One reason why is Hoban's offense has been outstanding. Senior Garrett Mellon is one of the reasons why. Mellon is the guy whose job is to get the offense started, but he's also a threat to finish as well. Garrett Mellon, our Spectrum News 1 Game Breaker. It may be overly simplistic, but possession in lacrosse is hugely important. You need the ball to score. So the face-off man is important, but he's sometimes taken for granted. But not at Hoban High School. The Knights have one of the area's best face-off men in Jarrett-Mellon.
I take pride in that, and I feel like getting possessions every game is very important because it helps our O run, and we could score, get up by a lot, have some quick face-off goals, and it's a big part of our game.
The second at 6-4 halftime, I don't think they had the ball for more than 2 minutes in the second half because Garrett wins every faceoff. Make it take it. You know, you score and you get that right down. He did a great job of winning them forward. So fast breaks, which again, even more dangerous of the ball. So he's just a vital part of what we do.
Mellon is a different type of offensive weapon. He's often trying to win the faceoff forward and get right into attack mode for the Knights offense.
I've been to quite a few faceoff camps and I've learned several different ways, and that way seems most effective. I get it out in front and hopefully create something right off the bat. Some things that are key is I'm always as light as I can on my hands, and I've always practiced being as quick as I can and never giving up on the ground ball. And I'd say one thing that's a big part is trying to get the extra step on the man.
I don't believe in Fogo's face-off get-off. He's been first-line midi since he was a freshman. I actually coached his older brothers, and he played, came around. He's been around the program for 7-8 years, and he's just, he's worked on his skills. At home, he shoots, and he wants to play, and he loves the game.
Not only is Mellon a threat to score in transition when winning faceoffs, he's become one of several Hoban Knights who are scoring threats in the offensive end whenever they touch the ball.
That's probably my favorite part, scoring. I like doing it. That's sort of my role on the team.
And that's part of our mantra as a team, is that we're not going to specialize. We think that there's a lot of inefficiencies when you have teams that sub 3 middies off and 3 middies on. So we know from day one at JV level, you're going to play everywhere, you're going to face off, you're going to play defense, and then hopefully you'll be a well-rounded player. And again, it's innate instinct. He knows where the ball's going to be, and he's long, so he can pick it off a lot.
No matter the sport, it's very tough for a team to repeat as a state champion. The Perry Panthers won the D1 title last season in softball, bashing their way to their first trophy in 8 years. Even though they fell short of their goal this season, the program is strong enough to make another run in 2020. Here's Perry Softball, our team of the week. State softball games are normally low-scoring nail-biters, but Perry broke the mold last year, scoring a record 23 runs at state and becoming the first team to reach double digits in both games.
Just the fact that we were able to put so many on the board at once or in one game, it was something that people just don't talk about or haven't seen.
Gia Durio also set a record by clubbing 3 home runs in the state semis. And she homered in the championship game, too.
I was very relaxed, and I was comfortable, and I was confident. So, I wasn't trying to do too much, and I was very obviously happy with the results. But, yeah, it's just anything to help my team out.
The Panthers outscored their opponents 73-4 in the tournament last year, and winning their district made all the difference.
You get through the 2 hard teams that we kept going down to. Hoover kept falling towards their feet every year, and then last year, once you beat them, you're just like, okay, we have to sail through this now.
Having those close losses with like Hoovers and the Lakes and the Lewisvilles, it kind of drives you to push harder, and then it's just great to see it all come alive the next year winning states.
But the Panthers' run through the tournament meant more to the community than just another trophy.
Last year, I know our big thing was to kind of bring some light and joy into our community after the school year we had with the suicides and stuff. So that was a big thing we wanted to do.
It was so nice to see everybody out and smiling and happy, and we just all came together, and it was really nice.
For the last 6 seasons, Scott Doherty has been the Panthers head coach. And since he was born and raised in Perry Township, he knows the importance of last year's title run.
Our community really gets behind people that work hard, that dedicate themselves to things. They were all kind of shared in that excitement. So for them to get to see what kind of girls we have and the kind of personalities that we have, and to get to share those things, yeah, it was just a lot of fun.
If you missed some of today's show or want to see past episodes, they're online and free. What a deal, I know. head to citybeat-tv.com. That's citybeat-tv.com.
Stick around. Dave will sit down with the newest member of the OHSAA in a special All Access. Stay tuned.
The best thing Tri-C did for me was give me opportunities. The workforce program prepared me for the career I have now. I got a job in the aerospace industry where I work on CNC machines. I have 3 younger brothers. I want to teach my brothers, hard work actually pays off. Come to Tri-C. It's a great stepping stone to wherever you're trying to get to in life. My name is Chris Grooms, and I got my start at Tri-C.
Welcome back to this edition of the High School Sports Insider, and we have a special edition, All Access, from the OHSAA headquarters in Columbus. We're pleased to be joined by Kathleen Coughlin, and she is the newest member of the OHSAA. She's in charge of basketball, administrator for basketball, as well as the liaison to athletic directors across the state. We appreciate the time, Kathleen. How's it been? You're less than a year in, but how's it been?
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been great so far. It's been a busy 8 months, but coming from being in a school setting and everything, you kind of know the ups and downs, the flow of the school year. So it's been fantastic. It's been a great experience.
Now you are the liaison to athletic directors across the state. We're an athletic director in the Columbus area for quite a while. Mm-hmm. What's been the biggest challenge? What's been the biggest difference for you?
Yeah, that's probably my favorite part of the job, is just getting every single day getting to make contact with different athletic directors around the state to keep kind of your voice in the school and to keep a pulse on your student athletes, which is so much fun to work with. So those have been kind of my areas that I've really enjoyed. And we'll continue to focus. I think during the summer month, while we've gone through a whole school year, it will be nice to really form kind of a strategic plan on how we want to best reach our athletic directors, what is going to be most informative to them, because I know they get a lot of information every day. Your athletic directors kind of, if you ask them what their day-to-day is, it's hard to say because there's just so many things. It's so different every day. So we want to make sure we're providing them with good information that is needed, that is helpful, and it's not too much going on.
Now, I mentioned you were an athletic director for a number of years. Does that help you with kind of the mindset that you know what you think would be of help to the athletic directors across the state?
I think so. I loved my time as an athletic director, and it obviously does help in this setting just because I understand, I get what they're having to go through every day. I understand, like we talked about, kind of the flow of the schedule and of the different seasons. So I think more than anything, it also helps me because I have some of those relationships that I've already formed. So I have like a backbone of people that I can kind of go to and say, do you think this would be helpful? And to get that information back is really nice.
When you think about that, what do you want the athletic directors across the state to say when they think of you and the position that you're now in?
I think it would be the same for me that they think of as our whole organization, and that is we are here to serve you. We don't exist without our member schools, and so anything that we can do, I think most of the time, without even trying, I start my emails with, thanks so much for your email, and I really am appreciative because most of the time they're asking a question that many will need to know the answer to, and it kind of sparks something in my brain of, okay, in the next memo that I send out, let's make sure we mention this, because we do appreciate, obviously, our athletic directors who ask the question beforehand, because it's better to ask for permission than for forgiveness in a lot of our settings, especially if they deal with our bylaws, our sport regulations. We don't want to give punishments to our schools, to our student athletes. So ask beforehand, and we're here to help you.
You're the basketball administrator as well. How has that gone? You went through a pretty successful season. What was the biggest challenge and the biggest thing you learned going through basketball?
Probably the hardest part was just you don't know what you don't know. So going through it all that first time, but luckily, I have a huge team here, and every single person in our entire organization plays some key role. And even those outside of the organization, our partnership with OSU has been tremendous. So I would say not knowing everything, now I've been through it, everything that they said makes sense. Like, oh, okay, when you were referring to Fred Taylor room, that's not actually a room anymore. But now I know that area, and we've gone through it. So it was a really nice experience and so helpful with everyone on board.
Biggest thing that you're really in 8 months in, as you mentioned. Biggest takeaway. What did you learn, and what was maybe the biggest surprise?
You know, I think going into it, you know that you have this group of people behind you that's all going to be helping. It's so neat that every single day I've been able to learn something from someone different in the office. You know, from all the way down from our interns to our corporate partners, and then the people that I work with every day in this office. We all really do work together, and it is just like it is in a school. You have your team, and then you obviously have all your teams of your teams. So it's been a nice surprise, and I think with Jerry at the helm, he has a very clear vision of what he wants to do, and I think we have really a great support staff and a core group of people that see that vision, and now it's a matter of let's get us there.
How much fun are you having? I mean, you know, first year on the job, you really look like you enjoy it, and how much does it feel like it's, you know, it's home now?
It does feel like home. It's crazy to think that I've only been here 8 months. It does feel like I've been here longer because, you know, you work with these people, and there are some times when it's high stress, and that's when you really get to know people's true colors, and you become a family. You really do bond. So it's just been a great atmosphere to work in. I think it's fun. You know, we get to work in sports all day, every day. I mean, even on those 16-hour days when you're at tournaments and things, you look around and you watch people enjoying the game, loving the game, having experiences that they're going to remember for the rest of their lives, and it's pretty powerful.
Kathleen Coughlin, we appreciate the time. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Kathleen is in charge of basketball administration for the OHSAA, as well as the liaison to the athletic directors across the state. Time for us to take a quick time out. When we return, Tweets of the Week are straight ahead on the High School Sports Insider. We want you to get more involved in the show, and you can through social media. Follow us on Twitter. We're at HS Sports Insider or at Dave Bacon Sports. Tweet us your story ideas or pictures or video showing your school spirit, and we'll use them in a future show. Still plugging away on Facebook as well. Head to our page and like us. We're at High School Sports Insider.
Before I decided to go back to Tri-C to become a nurse, I was a stay-at-home mom. Absolutely wanted to be a pediatric nurse. I love taking care of kids. If you're thinking about changing your career or changing your path, go to Cuyahoga Community College. I feel like I'm in a great place in my life. I have 3 great kids. I have a great job that I love. I could not have done it without Tri-C. My name's Diana Geary. I earned my nursing degree from Cuyahoga Community College.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program has been recognizing role model students and teachers since 2007. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Supporting Education. There, you can nominate students in kindergarten through 12th grade as academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as the Teacher of the Month. Every school that participates is eligible for the School of the Year. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. The High School Sports Insider rolls along. Thanks for riding shotgun with us. We've come to that point in the show where we want your input. We're always on the lookout for crazy plays, outstanding performances, or high school kids just having fun. That's where you come in. When you see something like that happening, you have to let us know about it. There are a few rules. You have to use 280 characters or less. Pictures or video, even better. It's time for the Tweets of the Week. Congrats to the running Cavs from Coldwater High School. Their girls track team won the school's first MAC Conference track title in 22 years. Senior Ian Binder from University School qualified for the U.S. Gymnastics Junior Olympic National Championships. And a little history for Louisville's softball team. The Leps win the school's first ever district championship by beating 4th-ranked Uniontown Lake in the title game by a score of 1-0. It's on to regionals for the Leps. Keep those tweets coming. We want your story ideas or pictures or video showing your school spirit. Tweet those to us. We're at HS Sports Insider or at Dave Bacon Sports. Use hashtag HSSI Ohio. Again, that's at HS Sports Insider or at Dave Bacon Sports. Use hashtag HSSI Ohio. We'll use a few of them on upcoming shows as the Tweets of the Week. Our half hour together always seems to fly by, and now we are all out of time on this week's show. Before we go, we want to thank you for taking the time to join us. We hope to see you back here next week, same time, same place, when again we'll have some of the best high school sports stories from all across Ohio.
As always, thanks for supporting high school athletics. Have a great night.